Hello and welcome to the Giraffe Social Media Podcast. It's what social media managers are talking about. I'm Caitlin McKenzie, and today I'm joined by some brilliant members of the Giraffe team. We've got Senior Social Media Manager Dom.
Hello.
Social Media Assistant Chloe.
Hi.
And for the first time, Head of Operations Kate.
Hiya.
So in today's September Newsfeed review, we're going to be chatting about some of the major things that happened on social this month, including platform updates and the social media documentary that everyone is talking about. But before we get started, it's time for a little team question. So guys, tell me, what was your personal Newsfeed highlight of September? What's like the best thing that happened this month? Dom, why don't you go first?
Oh, yeah, for me, it was my 2-year anniversary at Giraffe, which is pretty exciting.
Yay.
Hooray! How exciting.
That was last Friday's gone. Really good. 2 years. Can't believe how fast it's gone, how fast time flies. It's exciting.
I feel like I can't remember a time before Dom.
Yeah.
Don't want to even, really.
Yeah, exactly. Who would want to remember that?
How about you, Chloe?
It was my 23rd anniversary on Earth, so that was great. I went to Italy with my boyfriend to celebrate, so I feel like that was definitely a September highlight for me.
Oh my goodness, that's so exciting. Whereabouts did you go?
Sicily, we went. We just road tripped across the island, which was so much fun.
Oh, lovely. Does that mean you're in lockdown now?
Yeah, my boyfriend got a corona test because he when you think you have symptoms and then you give yourself the symptoms, he's one of those people. So we did sort of stay home for a week and a half, and then he got a test and we're all good. So we're back out.
Awesome. Well, I think my highlight at the very start of the month, I booked a couple of days off and I went and did a big hiking trip. I went and did the West Highland Way, which was super fun and definitely just in time because it's up in Scotland, up along the west of Scotland. And the weather has changed a lot. I mean, it rained for at least solid 24 hours of the 6-day trip. So that was a low light of the highlight, but overall it was great. And, it's good to be in the great outdoors. How about you, Kate? What was your highlight of the month?
Yeah, I mean, representing Scotland here, I did the Skye Trail, which was incredible. It was we did 6 of the 7 phases of the overall trail. It was harder than I thought it would be, maybe due to my heavy pack, and I'm not really a light packer. So, but it was incredible. We had some really good weather days, and very few Highland cow, but 1 or 2, enough in there to stand out, really.
I actually saw my first Highland cow this weekend, and I've been living in Scotland temporarily since June, and they're just not around. We think we need to petition Nicola Sturgeon to get them more on the side of the road. But I was paddleboarding on Loch Lomond, and there was just a bunch on the shore of this island, and I was like, this is the most Scottish moment of my life so far. Sounds like everyone had a great month, which is great to hear. So my first update, which you guys may have noticed, I actually didn't hear about this until I was listening to a podcast. I somehow missed it. But the one and only David Attenborough is now on Instagram. And I think this is very exciting. And he snatched the record for the fastest. He raced to 7 figures in 4 hours and 44 minutes, which beat Jennifer Aniston's record, who previously broke Instagram by joining. Which is really great. Do you guys follow? Have you seen? Are you on the David Attenborough Insta bandwagon?
As soon as I saw it, I followed him. And I'm not even surprised about that stat. It was going to happen, wasn't it? Everyone loves David.
He is a living legend.
It's about time he came on Instagram. And I think it's amazing what he's coming on for as well, to provide that more awareness. Probably a little bit to promote his new show, but,
It definitely was a mic drop moment. He was like, I'm on Instagram, but I'm here to tell you off.
Yeah. That first video, I watched it this morning and was like, oh yeah, okay, this is great, but also we're paying attention. Sorry, Mr. Attenborough.
I feel like I'm really missing out. I feel like I heard about it and I just haven't gone on yet to follow him, but big fan. I'm not sure I can handle it. My news feed is all just basically animals and food. So yeah, I'm not sure I can handle the content that he'd be putting up. Too much for me, maybe.
There have been some cute nature pics, I think. I think they're going to do a nice little balance. So whoever's doing his strategy, I think hopefully they'll balance the life affirming stuff with pictures of polar bears, hopefully. But hilariously, I love that he's like pulled a full on like Beyonce and follows nobody. Like he follows no one. I mean,
who does he need to follow? Who knows more, you know?
That's a very good point. He is at the front of the pack. So, Dom, I think you've got something to tell the group about. What's something new you've noticed on the world of social this month?
Yeah, LinkedIn have made quite a few updates, to be fair, to their platform. Awesome. Like 4 main key points, really. One is that they've done a refresh of their design, of their interface. They've made it a bit more warmer, and they're trying to create the design so it represents more diversity. It's simple, modern, and quite easy to navigate. It's sort of like similar to Facebook, to be fair. It's a little bit similar to Facebook. But yeah, I've had a look at it. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but it definitely is a lot easier to sort of navigate around. It looks simple, quite clean. So that's one. The next thing is they've streamlined their search results. Before, you could only sort of search your people's jobs and just people. Now you can search like relevant groups, events, and other content as well. So they, alongside the new interface design, they've updated the search results too. They've also added LinkedIn stories. They've jumped on a bandwagon with every other platform. So no surprise there. But their aim for LinkedIn stories is to spark more conversation. So they're going to add things like question of the day to try and get people to sort of interact, and localized stickers, obviously localized in your area, certain stickers that will be unique to that area. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out compared to like, you know, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, see how that rolls out. And finally, they are adding some features to their messaging. So you can now manage your messages in bulk. So you can bulk delete, bulk archive, things like that. You can also edit messages. They are introducing emoji reaction, so you can quickly react to messages with an emoji, and video meeting. So you can now switch the conversation from chat to face-to-face using Microsoft Teams, Zoom, all those things. So yeah, so LinkedIn in September have been busy.
So busy. Wow, that's amazing. It's cool that they're doing that. I guess they're just trying to funnel a lot more traffic and do the sort of things you can do on all the other platforms. Oh, you can maybe do them here, and maybe it's like better and more focused to your interests.
What are your thoughts on LinkedIn stories? I thought that was quite an interesting one.
I can't imagine how that would play out, you know, like a little boom of me typing on my keyboard, working away, you know, hustling.
You can't imagine it being how Instagram stories, even TikTok is being used right now, you know, dancing and all that sort of thing. So it definitely will be a bit more professional.
Your favorite business managers just like throwing out the TikTok dances on LinkedIn.
Exactly. So I think it will have that. That's why they're going towards the more, let's start a conversation rather than, you know, let's show off your best dance moves.
I wonder if it'll be used for people kind of to make appeals. I mean, lots of people are looking for work at the moment. And I think lots of people are turning to LinkedIn as their mechanisms for finding new work. If that's going to be a way for people to kind of make that appeal and demonstrate a bit of their personality, something that recruiters typically don't see until interviews, but see that a little bit firsthand, and you might kind of get a bit more of a holistic picture of a candidate potentially that's just a bit beyond their CV. So maybe people will be using it that way.
Definitely, and especially LinkedIn, I think, have about 700 million monthly users, or I don't know if that's all together. So, like I said, it is a platform for people to look for jobs, especially in the current situation that we're going through at the moment. So, yeah, it could be used in that sense for sure. Definitely.
I think it's probably a great opportunity as well. Like as a social media assistant working at an agency, I find that when we have clients who use LinkedIn, the kind of posts that I create for LinkedIn are like strictly professional kind of business updates. So I think, you know, adding this story feature could be a great way to kind of, you know, make it a bit more of a laid back, not that it has to become a laid back platform, but, you know, businesses are always looking for ways to share behind the scenes, and maybe their followers on Instagram don't necessarily care, but LinkedIn is definitely more of a platform that could be in tune with. So it's exciting.
Definitely. You literally took the words out of my mouth. I was thinking that like maybe businesses who, like need and have that kind of content, like maybe, and the first thing that pops to mind is like some sort of fulfillment place or some like where there's a factory or something like that. Maybe like you say that people on Instagram or Facebook, that's maybe not that interesting kind of content to them, but perhaps to other like similar businesses and similar professionals, that could be a really cool way to use that content and like, really make it work really, really well with that more niche target audience.
Yeah. I think as well with the video meeting aspect on the messaging, I think that will be really cool because obviously you look at Facebook and how you can just do FaceTime, but that's going to be more personal. Whereas LinkedIn is a bit more professional, isn't it? So those, client conversations potentially on LinkedIn or team conversations on LinkedIn that you might be having can easily be turned to video, maybe not even needing to have to go to, switch over to third-party apps. If it can be done on the platform itself, and I think that'd be a really good tool.
I think if you can build a tool that people are spending all of their time on because it offers everything, you have no need to kind of leave that. So it seems like LinkedIn is really kind of trying to jump in on maybe some of Zoom's market share and say, actually you can kind of host all these meetings all within that. Definitely. It's interesting though. I wonder if because the sort of news feed does look remarkably similar to Facebook, but old Facebook, and obviously Facebook has, I know they're rolling it out sort of separately, depending on like where you are or whatever, but I think the new version of Facebook is now well and truly here to stay.
We all know how you feel about the new Facebook, Kate.
yeah, there are some growing pains, and I've heard that from quite a lot of people. So it's interesting. Same. It would be interesting to know if LinkedIn is really listening to what people are saying about Facebook and going, you know what, Facebook's going to move away from this. We're going to move towards it because that's what people want. It's interesting.
Exciting times. Well, Kate, welcome, by the way, to your first ever podcast episode. It's very exciting to have you with us. So what update do you have to share with the team and our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know that one of the big conversations that's happening globally right now is students going back to university. And as we all know, Facebook, their roots were really in a college-based, campus social network, and they're returning to their roots with campus. So you can create, students now can have their own separate, basically Facebook as it was in its early days. And they're creating campus profiles. So it's a college only space where students can go and connect in. So on the app, you can go in and you will log in with a separate, you've got to have a university email address to create like a campus profile. And then it's separate to your main profile and it connects only students. So something that's really cool about it is it will give you a college specific feed, and it's sort of badged as a college tool because it's been rolled out first in the US and only at select campuses, which is obviously how Facebook was born in the very first place. But the idea is that, we know the university experience for students is going to be so different this year. And for anybody who's been to university, that so much about that. Yeah, like obviously the education that you get is great, but the connections that you make are super important. And it's more difficult now when students are kind of being told, like, limit your interactions, don't go out and socialize. So Facebook is trying to create an online space for students to find each other and to connect. So some of the key features they've got are the college specific feed so that they can go and filter out all the noise and focus on the people that they've connected with on their college campus only. There's going to be a campus directory, so you can actually search by class, by major, by year, whatever. So you can kind of basically hunt down the people that you're looking for, which is actually the search feature that Facebook had at the very beginning. And then they're going to also introduce real-time chat rooms as well. So again, it's all about connecting students, giving them that opportunity to socialize in a safe way. And I think it's really exciting.
I love that idea, because my sister, she's going into her first year of uni. And I think for every student, when you're first going to, especially if you're a first year fresher going to university, you don't know anybody. Majority of people don't know anyone. So to be able to have that tool to be able to connect with people that potentially could be in your same course, maybe even you're living, in the same flat. I know what my sister had to do. There were Facebook groups, but it took a long time to try and find those specific people that would potentially be in your flat. So to be able to actually make that connection before going to university, so then you can go there knowing that, you're going to know some people. I think that is really important. And yeah, just a space where it just for university, college people, I think such a good idea, really good idea.
This is going to make me sound like so antisocial, but where was this when I was at uni? Because my Facebook feed is full of like randoms that I did one group project with that I had to add on Facebook to communicate. And now I just can't get rid of them. So I feel having a separate space just for that would be kind of nice.
Yeah.
But also, the social aspect as well.
Yeah, because especially with like just the Facebook groups, you're probably going to be spammed with a load of, events and all random discount codes for all, takeaway places. That's what I saw in the past. So maybe this will cut all those out as well. And it will just be a bit more filtered to student specific.
Yeah, well, because the only people that can get into it are people who have a verified email address. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a sort of safer space for students to kind of have that. And it sounds like you can create these sort of chat rooms that are based around, like you could set them for like your whole class or like maybe just your flatmates or, but you could, kind of build sort of separate communities around things. But I think for me, like the campus directory, I think we can all appreciate that maybe there's going to be somebody that you might see on a Zoom call or in the days of old that you might have seen in a lecture hall and gone, I want to check out this person. But it's great. because how often do you, now that's how you have to approach people, is kind of stalk them a little bit and find them. Because, it's the world we lived in where you could just walk up to somebody and say, hey, want to go grab a coffee and talk about the paper that's due next week, is not as possible. So it's nice to have that that feature. And I know the platform is all based around like really focusing on safety, so you can control how much content or how much of your personal information is out there and how people can search you by. But I think it's really a really cool a really cool thing for them to do, and I think it's actually really cool for them to return to their roots as well. To offer that.
Just another way, isn't it, though, of Facebook getting younger people to stay on their platform and not go elsewhere.
Yeah, it will be interesting. I haven't seen anything about whether or not ads will be running. So if your campus only newsfeed, if there'll be any ads, but you can imagine if that's not in the plan initially, you can imagine that will be a specific type of advertising that could be potentially incentivizing businesses to focus on these key markets in the future. So definitely remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think definitely. I can't imagine a world where they would not monetize that. And also what a select specific group, you can say, like these highly engaged users who all go to this university or live in this area. But circling back a little bit, I don't know if I love it. I just think it's so weird that now if you want to, like, as you say, connect with somebody in whichever way you like, you'd be like, I noticed you across the Zoom call, like you look great in your little box. I just think it's a funny world that we live in now. But yeah, I think this is a pretty awesome development, and I think it definitely will be a much safer space in the sense of everyone has to have a university email, so accountability is key. Like there, you can't have just like random logons and like anonymous comments or like fake profiles and stuff, which I think will be very welcome in that sort of younger demographic who are maybe like more vulnerable to that sort of thing. And yeah, I'm the same, Chloe. Like, where was that when we were at uni? Like,
right.
And I didn't have coronavirus or anything like that sort of impacting my ability to connect with my peers, yet I still did not connect with my peers. So maybe, obviously I did in some ways, but not like on that scale. And I think yeah, it'd be cool to have that separate platform. And like you say, also keep maybe them separate if you want to keep them separate. Good to have that option.
I can imagine there's, you know, a lot of crossover as you know, the early adopters of Facebook kind of grew up, and then maybe their parents got involved. You kind of thought, should I add my dad? Should I not add my dad? And now this way, maybe you can kind of keep that. There's a way now to keep that separate, where you can have kind of your friends and your classmates on one, and then, you know, your grandma on the other. Which could be appealing for some.
Double life.
Yeah. I mean, it will be interesting at the moment. As I said, they're kind of only rolling it out to select universities in the US, but hopefully it will prove popular and they'll roll it out here pretty soon.
Yeah, that would be great to see. Well, guys, next on the agenda is the topic on everybody, whether they work in social media or not. As we know, I think in an earlier episode, we discussed that now half of the world's population is on social media. So this affects quite a lot of us. So the Social Media Dilemma was a new Netflix release over the last month, and it's got a lot of people talking. Have you guys seen it yet?
Yeah, I watched it this weekend.
Me too.
Yeah, I have seen it. It was 2 weeks ago now. So, but yeah, I have seen it. Yeah.
How about you, Chloe?
Calling me out again, Caitlin. No, I was just telling you guys, I haven't watched it on purpose just because I don't need to be told everything wrong with the world. I just don't click with that kind of content. I like to remain oblivious to everything bad happening.
You know what, Chloe? I think actually you'd probably watch it and you'd probably think, I mean, for me, for about 50%, at least 50% of the movie, I was like, none of this is news to me. And I watched it with my boyfriend, and he was like, "Do people not know this?" And I said, "Yeah, I don't think they do." I said, "You know, you live with somebody who works in digital marketing and works in social media, so like we have these conversations about how these platforms work, but I don't think every family is sitting down at the dinner table and going like, do you realize the impact of social media, both good and bad, you know, on our lives and on our communities?"
They proper dramatized it, didn't they? With all the acting out, and especially around that kitchen and like putting the phones in that lock and then ending up smashing up the lock. Like, how realistic is that? Like, people actually do this?
I know. And I think that's been a lot of people's criticism is like, the dramatization was something you just have to sit through to get to the interesting parts. I thought the visualization was quite helpful in some senses. I've realized we've just dived into talking about it, but for anyone who doesn't know, The Social Dilemma is a documentary that's been put together, and it sits down and interviews some of the key figures who developed Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Gmail, and it's really interesting to hear what these people have to say, because the thing I found really interesting is like, obviously everyone started with the best intentions. Like the inventor of the like button on Facebook's in this documentary, and he talks about, we just would like spitballing ideas how to bring positivity and like share appreciation for each other. But actually now it's sort of spiraled into teenagers experiencing different kind of mental health symptoms and stuff because they maybe don't get as many of those like button interactions as perhaps they would. And obviously that's just one way in all the ways it's spiraled. But I think you should definitely watch it, Chloe. Like, I don't want to be dramatic, but I think it's kind of changed my life a little bit. Right. So I'm being dramatic. But
okay, I'm going to take like an hour and a half long lunch break today, guys.
But seriously, because I think obviously I knew a lot about it, but just sitting down and watching it, and then it really made me look at myself and my own, not even just social media, but my phone usage. And I think because of coronavirus, you know, we're all home and we all have the same amount of social needs. So I think we've all just been forced in with our phones. And I just got into such bad habits in the last couple of months where I just like wake up in the morning, go on social media to like kind of wake up, or like I'll go on it throughout the day. I'll go on it like during work. And obviously it's difficult for us because we have to open Instagram and stuff to do work. And then always seem to find myself down a rabbit hole. And I'm like, what did I open this app to do? And I think it was kind of interesting to know that it's designed to do that. It's designed to catch our attention, keep it, and profit off it. And it just made me realize like, oh my goodness, I'm letting my phone kind of run my life. I don't know if you guys maybe felt the impact of it in that sort of personal way too.
I think so. It was definitely like a conversation starter for my boyfriend and I, and we kind of had a look at our phones, and he didn't realize that you can actually see like how it tracks all your screen time, and you can know like how many times a day you pick up your phone. And for me, like I've set limits on my phone, so to help that very thing, to kind of stop it, to kind of like not stop my consumption, but to manage it a little bit better. And he was sort of just unaware of how much screen time we're actually spending. And I think it is more. I mean, I don't know if you guys are comfortable sharing, but I think I'm averaging about sort of three hours a day. And
that's nothing. That's nothing.
That's my new goal.
And that's interesting because my boyfriend was sort of saying like that's outrageous. Like that's too much screen time. And then I read an article, I think it was in like a Guardian article or something about with Sarah Paulson, and she was saying that her screen time was like about 9 hours a day. So that actually made me feel like quite good. That at least there's people out there that are a lot more. But I think bring it back to the social dilemma. It is really interesting how it's not only, Caitlin, about designed to keep our attention and to keep bringing us back there. It's also confirming our biases, and how all the algorithms are designed to confirm our biases, which to some extent, is how our brains actually operate anyway when we process new information. But it's interesting how the social media platforms have actually found a way of monetizing that.
And like with all the information the algorithm is gathering, it's getting to a point where it can control our next steps, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, what's quite funny is the part when the actor hadn't been on his phone for a little while, so they decided to throw him a notification to make him aware, and then he ended up going on it. So it's crazy. It is getting to a point, where there's so much information that the algorithm is now picking up, so much information that we're putting in, even just by, selecting a certain ad or we're searching specific things. The algorithm learns that and it understands what we're liking, what we're disliking, how long we're spending watching a certain video. That means they'll be like, oh, okay, let's send him another video they might potentially like that, similar to that. It's just gaining your attention. It's making you stay on that platform. The longer you stay on that platform, the better it is for all these social platforms. And it was definitely, for me, it was definitely eye-opening. And like Kate said, I sort of already knew a lot of this anyway. And it's funny you say that you spend about 3 hours. I've probably spent about 3 hours just watching YouTube a
day. Especially nowadays, right? Like we can't get out. Like, so no, I'm exactly the same.
I thought, Dom, you kind of talk about we'll choose this ad based on what they've seen and all this kind of stuff. But Chloe, I mean, the best part of this movie, for me anyway, the best part of this movie is the actual dramatization of these three guys at the console. And they're literally like, oh, okay, well, it's this scored 81% and it's literally like they've dramatized it as if there's these three guys that are all choosing there, controlling literally at seconds, like swiping stuff onto your screen. And I just thought, I want to meet the three guys that are controlling my Facebook. I've got some optimizations that I think they can make that would actually make me more addicted. So,
Yeah, I think I had two key takeaways. The first thing, when I first started watching it, I was like, OMG, this is quite like stressful. And like, it sort of just like turned my gaze on myself and made me quite self-aware. I felt like I was having an intervention. And just like maybe I've decided to like change my habits a little bit, because obviously social media is integral to our roles, but also like integral to our lives. And especially during a pandemic, like there's so much positive, like so many positive things, like the people that we've been able to keep in touch with, regardless of like social distancing and location. And I think there are heaps of positives, and I think it's important to not lose sight of that. And everywhere I've heard it discussed, people talk about the positives in their like area. And for example, like in our sense as well, like the businesses that would never be able to operate, especially during coronavirus, if it wasn't for social media and for social media advertising. And I think it's important to think of it in that context. However, of course, there is a darker side to it. And I think the platforms need to be held more accountable. And I think that's when it comes down to it, because I think it's easy. Well, I mean, I had the knee-jerk reaction of I'm going to turn off all my notifications for loads of apps. And I've ordered an alarm clock now. Like it's had some impact on me. I've ordered an alarm clock. So the last thing and the first thing I touch each day isn't my phone. I think that's kind of important. But again, like that's like just little choices for me that I think will help me manage my time and stuff better. And the 6 hours, I'll admit to my screen time that I'm averaging now, 6 hours. Again, much of that on Netflix and YouTube for sure. But so like but I also think it's important, like we should all make those changes if you want to and you feel like you are spending too much time on it. But then there is also, it kind of responsibilizes the individual a bit too much, and like these things are designed to addict us. And the guys in the documentary who make the algorithms even say we fall completely prey to it. Like I go to work and I build something, and then I come home and I like fall into its sort of trap and I can't get off it, which I think's really interesting.
But I think also it's interesting that they also say that they don't allow their children to be on social media. I think that speaks volumes, that they're they're well aware of the unintended negative consequences, because like we've said, like this stuff was invented with positivity in mind, or community building ultimately, and there's just been these unintended negative consequences. But it's very interesting to know that they're not their own kids.
Yeah, that's the thing as well, isn't it? Because I think it is quite a negative documentary on, social. I think it should play more on what are the positives of social. It doesn't really play too much on that aspect, and it should, provide more tips on how we can actually, help with lowering our usage on these apps or these social platforms. Like, I get a weekly update on my phone telling me the usage, but do I turn off? Do I put limits on my social apps? No, I don't. I don't know why. I just don't. Even though I can see, I'm getting this update and the usage is quite alarming sometimes. To be fair, yes, we do work in social media, so I do have to be on these social platforms quite a lot of the day. But for some reason I don't, and maybe it just needs more awareness needs to be put out there. Like maybe just these little notifications on your phone isn't enough. There needs to be more out there that the platforms can actually do themselves to help you, make you aware of, to set limits.
Absolutely. I think there are some sorry, I'll totally jump back to you in a second, but I think there is more and more of that stuff trickling in. I was surprised to see, it could have been there for a while, I admit, but I only looked into my usage and settings, and I only discovered that you could even set time limits last night after I watched it. So I have now imposed a time limit. We'll see how that goes. But so that's the new iOS update, and it gives you a lot of options, and you can add widgets with the new update as well. So I've just overhauled my whole life, guys. But page 3 on my iPhone is that's where I've put all my games, all my streaming services, all my social apps. And at the top of that page is a widget with my screen usage. And so I'm just be like, are you sure you want to do this, Caitlin? Look at what you've already done. Who knows if it will work, but I think there are things out there. But again, it's a lot to expect an individual to have to do that and to take control of their lives again. That it should be easier. I think you're right, Dom. Sorry, what were you going to say, Chloe?
No, I was going to say, I think that on some social media apps, I know on Instagram you can, because I turned it on and then I turned it off. But you can set it to let you know, okay, you can say, okay, I only want to spend 3 hours on Instagram today. Kate, I know that seems like a lot to you. For me. And then it will tell you once you've reached it, but it doesn't lock you out of the app. It just says okay, or thanks for letting me know, and then you can continue scrolling. So I think you're right. I think while there may be little things to try and help us, they're not really trying to, they're not pushing it the full way. So
it's a nod, really, isn't it? It's
it's the bare minimum.
Yeah, I mean, I set limits on certain apps, and then overall, in my phone, so that I'm not first thing in the morning or last thing in the evening. And but what happens is when you're trying to use it, it tells you oh, you've reached your limit for today. You can extend it for 1 minute, 15 minutes, or you can ignore the limit. And it was when I first did it, it was I was very good. I was yeah, okay, that's it. I won't use it until between the times, or I've used it too much today, so that's fine. We'll comply with these reminders. And then it was oh, well, I've just got to search this. So I just want to see this. So I'd, hit ignore for 1 minute, and then next thing I know, it was ignore for 15 minutes, and then it was ignore for the day. So you're right. These tools.
I wonder if it's they do it on purpose to make you go, oh, but I just have to search this. Or, oh, I forgot to check this. I wonder if it's when someone tells you you can't do something anymore, or that you need to stop, it makes you want to do it more. So maybe that's the plan, guys.
Gosh, you just don't know.
I'm gonna have to watch this now and fall down a black hole, I think.
I think it's good. I think it's good to be aware, and like knowledge is power, you know what I mean? And you can sort of see what's going on and maybe see what needs to change and like have an awareness. But I think the way we're talking about it is kind of low-key like strange, isn't there's a quote in the documentary that says like the only two industries that call their customers, their clients, users are the drug industry and social media. And we are all talking about like, oh, we just get 15 more minutes, and then I couldn't resist, so I go back, and it's like, it is very true. And I think it's important to remember that it's a great thing, it's super useful, but it's a social thing, right? But it's maybe not necessary or healthy for the brain to be socializing like on and off all day long. Like if you compare it to like going to the pub, that's fun, that's great, that's social, it's nice to do that as part of your day, whether you drink there or not, you know, that's aside. But like if you go to the pub, if you have to go to the pub like in all your work breaks, and if you have to go, you stay until it's closed, and then you're just there with random people that you don't necessarily want to interact with, and you're just sitting there until the bitter end. My metaphor's getting a bit tired here, but like then maybe it's not such a healthy habit anymore. So I think it's good to be like aware of it and how much time you are spending doing it.
Yeah, because I saw this one quote from Stephen Bartlett who says social media has made perfect look achievable, so now real has become undesirable, which is so true, isn't it? Because you know, especially you look on Instagram and you know, TikTok even, you know, everything is edited a lot of the time, so there's not a lot of realness into posting, into certain content. Not everyone, I'm just saying there's certain. So yeah, it can play in your mind mentally if you're always seeing these unrealistic expectations of people, and then yourself, you may be thinking, why don't I look like that? And it can play big, have a big impact on your mind.
I think for me, that's where the turning point in the movie happened. Probably about halfway, they start talking about the statistics on particularly the focus on teenage girl, but teenage rates of and suicide, and how that you can clearly correlate that with the introduction of social media, and that probably comes from exactly what you're talking about, Dom, is the comparison. You know, we used to just compare ourselves to, you know, friends, maybe movie stars, but we knew they were photoshopped, and now everybody's photoshopped. And in fact, even ourselves are photoshopped, because if you're now having to compare yourself to your online persona, it must be really challenging. I mean, I sort of think of that and I think, oh, thank goodness this wasn't around when I was a child. I don't think I would have been able to handle it.
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's important to remember, I mean, we all work in social media. This is our bread and butter. And I know a lot of our listeners are also social media managers, assistants, professionals. And I think when I first started watching the documentary, I was like, oh goodness, like, do I need to change my life? Like, I had a mini existential crisis. But I think by the end, and once I like really sat with it and thought about it a lot, I think if there's a problem with something, the best thing isn't necessarily to just like cut yourself off from it and leave, because it's always going to be there. And I think there's always a sunny side of the street and a shady side of the street. And I think definitely as an agency, I know we strive to be on the sunny side of the street. Oh, there I go with another random metaphor. But yeah, I think it's good to be aware, and I think it's good to know, like on a personal basis, like what your usage is, like we've discussed. But I think also, like if we're not doing it, someone else is going to be doing it, and we can, I think, have a conscience around it and like make sure there's certain ethical standards. And the platforms do enforce a lot of ethical things, but obviously they're guilty of a lot of things, as we have learned in the documentary. But yeah, I don't think it's all doom and gloom for people who work in social media. What are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, I think there's so much. I think as humans, we are craving connection on so many levels, and especially now, I think for many people, they're realizing for probably the first time how important connection is to them. And I mean, my family all lives in Canada, and I know Chloe, obviously your family's all in Australia. Without social networks, like I wouldn't have any communication with my family. And I mean, you know, we've got my grandma and grandpa set up. My grandfather is in a care home, and like he's got some fantastic nurses that are like helping him connect with us and stuff. So for me, yeah, there's lots of negatives, and we all have to take responsibility for those negatives. So many positives as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. Basically, what Kate said. I don't really need to add too much to that. It's completely true. Yeah, connection. That is probably there's many more positives, but connection is definitely one reason why Facebook was first brought out, and it's one that is the most important. Like for me as well. Like I've got a family in Italy, so I connect with them on all social media platforms. So I can make sure that they're all good and that I can see their posts, and it's nice to be able to see that they're what they're up to and keep in contact with them.
Yeah, I think for me, like I am very like self-aware of when I'm like how I'm feeling while I'm on social media. And, while it does have its downsides, it's also like brought me one of my biggest passions in life, which like I do a lot of fashion blogging and work on Instagram. So I think, there are downsides, but it's also like making a lot of people really happy and like giving a lot of people jobs and like helping them find and connect with people who share the same interests as them. So I think that's important to remember. And at the end of the day, like I can be on my phone all day. I could be at my 7-hour screen time limit. And, when I sit down with my friends or family, I don't need my phone on me. I can put it down quite easily and like just completely disconnect from the online world. So, I think as long as you can rein it in and you can turn it off, that's completely fine.
Yeah, I think the job aspect as well, like was social media manager, was that even a term 10 years ago, for example? Like, don't know, probably not. So yeah, it has provided a lot more opportunities in this industry.
Mm-hmm. I think, absolutely. I do think like the internet and social media is like a world of opportunity, and like it's brand new stuff all the time. Like people can make opportunities for themselves completely from scratch. Like these skills are like easy to use. The platforms are easy to use. Like there's heaps of opportunity. And I know there's like lots of people who identify in like minority groups and stuff, and they've been able to connect with people that they'd never ever be able to even meet or even know exist. So yeah, I think there are a lot of positives. I think it's important to be aware of things, and it's important to be self-aware. And I think it's also important to like call on these platforms to do better, I think, because I think they can do better, and we can probably all do better for ourselves. But yeah, I don't think it's all doom and gloom. And I think it's been really good to discuss this with you guys. Great. Well, thanks so much, guys. So I believe that brings us to the end of the September Newsfeed review. Thanks so much for sharing your updates, guys. But we can't finish, of course, without our monthly dose of wisdom. And you'll see the pun here because Dom. So Dom's going to share some wisdom with the team, like he does in all of our weekly meetings, but he's going to share it with us on a monthly basis. So Dom, please motivate us and share your wisdom.
Of course. So there will be obstacles, there will be doubters, there will be mistakes, but with hard work, there are no limits. And that was from Michael Phelps.
Nice. I like that. I feel motivated. Great. Well, that is all we've got time for today. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next episodes. And you can also connect with us on all major social channels and let us know what you thought about any of the topics we discussed today. Have you watched the Social Dilemma documentary? What did you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Comment on our social posts and let us know. We've been Giraffe Social Media. You've been amazing. We'll see you next time. Thank you.